For more insight into this week's political news, we're joined now by Jeffrey Goldberg, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, plus David Nakamura and Seung Min Kim, both of whom cover the White House. David from the Washington Post, Seung Min from Capitol Hill these days. Seung Min, we just spoke to Mark Warner on Senate Intelligence, who was sort of making sense of how he sees the decision for Michael Cohen to plead guilty to lying to Congress. This is not a crime that is very often prosecuted. How is this decision to move ahead sort of seen on Capitol Hill? Is this tightening the probe more closely around the president, or is this just a prosecution?
Well, what I find really interesting about the charge that Michael Cohen pleaded guilty to over the week, lying to Congress, is remember that a lot of people have talked to Congress throughout the course of all these Russia investigations. The panels that have been investigating the Russia issues have been House Intelligence Committee, the Senate Intel Committee, which Warner is one of the heads of, and the Senate Judiciary Committee. And there are a lot of characters who have given a lot of different statements to Congress. And what I found really stark, in addition to Senator Warner's comments on your show, was what Senator Burr, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, said just on Friday at a forum in Texas. And he said, if you lie to Congress, we're going to come after you. Mm-hmm. And he says the committee is constantly reviewing testimony that they had gotten over the last year, looking for inconsistencies. They've made referrals to the special counsel, to DOJ. So that's a pretty big hint to us that we should continue to watch what Mueller is up to.
And Senator Warner said a number of referrals have been made, suggesting he's not the only Trump associate to have lied to Congress.
Yeah, no, you know, one of the amazing things here is that we're all, the country, the world even, waiting for the Mueller report. We're getting the Mueller report. Every day he's writing the report for us through these investigations, through these informations, through these prosecutions. I think I was just on the Hill this week asking a number of Democrats how aggressive they think this is going to get. They think it's going to get extraordinarily aggressive, and we're going to be entering a whole new phase where the subpoenas are going to be coming flying fast and furious, and the fights between the White House and Congress over who will be able to testify is going to be ferocious.
I mean, you're already seeing it even in other places. I mean, that you're seeing anger from the Hill about the administration's cooperation or lack thereof in briefing over the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. I mean, you had two senior officials go to the Hill, Mattis and Pompeo, and deliver some sort of a briefing about what the administration knows about this, but Gina Haspel, the CIA director, was not there. And so you're already seeing Lindsey Graham and others, even on Republican side, being upset about this administration and them trying to do oversight. So I think,
right. And if Trump loses Lindsey Graham on this, you know how the rest of the Hill is going to take this.
Well, I want to come to one of the other disputes on the Hill, which was Republican Senator Jeff Flake this week. He got a lot of flack from fellow Republicans for his decision to withhold his vote, basically hold it hostage until there is some sort of hearing for this bill to protect the special counsel from being fired. Many Republicans say this is a lost cause. Why is Jeff Flake pushing this when Republican leaders will never let this go to a vote?
Well, this is his last grasp of power since he's leaving office in a few weeks. But he has felt, he has told us several times that he has felt increasingly concerned about the fate of the Mueller probe, particularly triggered by the appointment of Matt Whitaker as the acting attorney general. We know Mr. Whitaker has had public comments before his current position that disparage the Mueller probe. Mostly all Democrats share that concern as well. But I've been asking some Republican sources, why not just give Jeff Flake the quote or the vote so he can move on? You guys can vote on all the
gift.
Exactly. You guys can vote on all the judges that you want. But this would be a very difficult vote. First of all, people say don't want to reward bad behavior on Capitol Hill, but sometimes that works. And also, it's going to be a difficult vote for a lot of Republicans, and they want to avoid that.
I want to ask you about your organization's reporting, though, on this issue as well, because Jeff Flake was blamed for blocking a certain federal judge from moving ahead. And it's really not just all about Jeff Flake on this one particular issue, right? You had uncovered some reporting about Thomas Farr.
Exactly. So Thomas Farr was a person who was up for a federal judgeship in North Carolina. He had worked for the former Senator Jesse Helms in '84 and '90. And we at the Washington Post uncovered an old DOJ memo earlier this week that a lot of senators, a growing group of senators, including Senator Tim Scott, who eventually said he would vote against the nominee, but other senators as well, that that said it raises questions about whether this nominee, Thomas Farr, had any knowledge or involvement in this effort to disenfranchise black voters in North Carolina during the 1990 campaign. So it shows a couple of things. First of all, that while Trump has had a lot of success in transforming the federal judiciary in a conservative fashion, he's still running into a lot of obstacles because of the types of nominees that he picks. And two, the Senate, very narrow majority in the Republican Senate, so one person really does have a lot of power here.
David, the president, in leaving Argentina and the gathering at the the G-20 gathering of world leaders, has said there was a major success in coming to agreement with Xi Jinping of China. What was actually agreed to?
I think it's a more limited success. It did avert, something of a potential, I don't want to say catastrophe, but next level of this trade war with China, because new tariffs could have gone into effect at the beginning of next year, but they seem to have averted that at least for 90 days. They basically said they're going to have a truce, sort of a temporary ceasefire on these tariffs. The president will not raise the $200 billion in tariffs from 10% to 25%, something China really didn't want to happen. In return, China will agree to buy some more goods. And to declare fentanyl as a controlled substance, something the president really wanted to sort of show that he was making inroads in his war to sort of deal with the opioid crisis. But I think more, deeper analysis shows that these intrinsic problems between U.S. and China on trade are not going away. And to say that it could happen within 90 days is somewhat unrealistic. It's something that's gone on for a couple years now.
It does seem, though, that he blinked a little bit. There's a lot of bluster about China, and then when push comes to shove, here we are. But he was generally, oddly, or uncharacteristically subdued, I think, at the G20, which is to say there were no, he signed onto the statement, there were no outbursts. The drama was with Putin and Mohammed bin Salman, the Saudi crown prince. There was no associated drama. He was, if you didn't know better, you would say that he had following a playbook written by more traditional presidents in multilateral settings. And I just found that noteworthy.
He canceled a press conference, deferred to George, the eulogies to George H.W. Bush as well. But, I think, the president is feeling pressure on trade. The announcement from GM to lay off 15,000 people, other, sort of stock market volatility we've seen over the last couple months has worried the White House. This is something, obviously, the economy, they're one of their biggest focuses as he sort of starts to enter his reelection campaign.
Right. It's a success of the economy the president says he's not being given credit for. Seung Min, how easy will it be to get this new NAFTA, the USMCA as the president's branding it, through?
Not easy at all. I just started looking through statements of what senators have said on this deal. You have Elizabeth Warren saying it doesn't have enough protections for workers. You have Senator Pat Toomey, as free trade as you can be, saying he doesn't like these provisions involving investor protections in that new agreement. And you have Senator Rubio also saying this deal is going to really hurt Florida's seasonal vegetable grower industry. So there's a lot of broader philosophical concerns, parochial concerns. And so either the administration is going to have to really twist arms here or work out a lot of side deals.
Very quickly, has the government shutdown been averted?
Check back in with us on Friday, and we'll see.
Check the president's Twitter.
You never say that.
Exactly. The president had hinted possibly he might sign off on something that would buy a bit more time and deference to allow those to mourn the passing of Bush 41. But we will see. That is the safe bet in Trump's Washington. Let's see what happens.